It's about dedicating your life, doing what you love, again, without fear, living a fearless life. Purpose is all about living it in such a way that you contribute outside yourself, because if you follow your passion and your purpose, you will contribute outside yourself. You will be helping others.
This is episode 46 on the Hidden Why podcast.
You're listening to The Hidden Why with your host, Leigh.
G'day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. My name's Leigh Martinuzzi. Great to have you here today. It's a beautiful day outside where I am at the moment. Pre-recording this, of course. Now, today I'm bringing to you an interview that I had with Helen Midas. She's Australia's leading mindset expert, hypnotherapist. She's dynamic, passionate, authentic, and she shares a really fantastic story of her journey. So whereby she was doing 20-something years in her corporate gig and then had the realization of, or that aha moment of, it wasn't for her. And that's when she found her passion and really started by helping others really overcome depression and anxiety and really overcome those emotional roadblocks that most of us have that stop us from really achieving our full potential. It's a really cool discussion, something that opened my mind and I got a lot out of, so I'm sure you will as well. There's a bunch of show notes, so check it out, thehiddenwhy.com. You can check out all the ins and outs of what we discuss. There's some really cool takeouts and, again, releasing that emotional baggage. Sometimes, it's okay to ask for help. Sometimes we can't do it on our own. Most of us probably can't do it on our own. So don't be hesitant to ask for help. And even, using someone like Helen, a hypnotherapist, to really help you unleash that emotional baggage so you can get rid of those hurdles and really charge forward. Certainly something that I'm looking into, and it was a really cool conversation. There's a bunch of other things in there, definitely some takeouts of her journey and what's worked well for her. Perhaps it'll be something that you might take on board and use in your own journey. So have a listen. I hope you really enjoy it. Thanks again, and without further ado, let's go for it.
This is The Hidden Why, discussing ideas and thoughts on living life with passion and finding your hidden why, your reason, your purpose.
Hello and welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. My name is Leigh Martinuzzi, the host of the show. Today I am excited and pumped, as always, and I've got a great interviewee on the show today, Helen Midas. She is an Australia's leading mindset expert. She is a leading hypnotherapist, which I'm sure we're going to delve into more. She's an author, a speaker, a business mentor. She does a bunch of stuff, and certainly she's had her own journey towards following a life towards her passion, I guess. But that's my words for it. Helen, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Leigh. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thanks for coming on the show and taking the time out. It's awesome to have you here.
Thanks very much.
Now, I probably jumbled through that a little bit, Helen, but I'm going to throw it over to you now. What do you do exactly?
Okay, all right. Well, what I love doing more than anything is I really love, and my absolute passion is to help people overcome depression and anxiety so that they can live the life that they want to live their ultimate potential.
Yeah.
So, with depression and anxiety, if you think about the stats, there's 65% of Australians are anxious, and depression is climbing. Year by year it's climbing, it's getting worse. And this really inhibits people from doing what they need to do in life. They live in fear. And so my absolute passion is to remove the blocks so that they can do what they want to do in their life and what they have the potential to do. Yeah.
Okay, so your passion is to really help other people live a life with, full passion and love and a fulfilled journey, I guess. Which
exactly.
Is pretty much what the show is all about, Helen. So perfect to have you on the show. We're all about, really, and I guess it's been my journey that I've come to do this podcast, and that is just the realization that, life is meant to be lived, and why do something that I don't really, really love? So I'm out there now dramatically trying to change things in my life. And it's a slow process. It's not a quick process, but definitely trying to change things to live a life that's more authentic to what I want to live, So Yeah,
Exactly.
I'm sure it's perfect to have you on the show, and hopefully we can share, or you can help us, approach that journey with a bit more ease, I guess, through what you teach and how you help people.
Sure. And you're one of the lucky few, Lee, that, you have realised that there is something more out there for you. There is
Yeah.
a purpose for you. And, that's my aim. It's about helping others realise that they can also live a life with purpose and passion and love, and they don't have to live in fear. So, congratulations for having that revelation yourself.
Well, it's happening, and I'm very impatient. So it's one of those things that I have to sort of slow myself down sometimes. And say no, just enjoy the journey, enjoy the day by day process.
Yeah,
because I just want to get there straight away, But
yeah,
there you go. So depression, anxiety, that's a really hardcore figure. 65% of the Australian population suffer with some sort of depression or anxiety, and living in fear. I suppose. I mean, we'll probably go into this a bit further, Helen, but you just sort of brought it to my attention. A lot of people don't find, or is it that they don't find their purpose or their passion in life, or is it because they just don't believe it's possible?
I don't think that, that they even know that there is a purpose to begin with, because I certainly didn't.
Okay.
Before I found mine, I didn't know that I had a purpose.
Yeah.
I just, I was on that treadmill of life where you go to school and you go to uni and choose the course that you think will give you the most, money, really.
Yeah.
And get you the career that you want so that you can have the house that you want and the cars that you want and have your 2 children and send them to private school or whatever you need to do. And so, we take on this programming that society puts upon us in terms of what we think that we should do, and we forget, or we don't even know, that there is something greater than that. And, greater than all material things. And that is, what's inside us.
Yeah. Okay, so it's about trying to pull that out of people and make them realise that there is more if they truly wish they're, to have it.
Exactly. So when people first come to me, they don't know. They really don't believe there is a purpose. All they can fear is pain. That's all they can feel, is that pain of being depressed, of being anxious, of being unhappy, unfulfilled. And you really can't talk about purpose and intention and what their role in life is until until I help them remove all that baggage first.
Yeah.
So there's a step-by-step process, because they can't see, the light until we get rid of all the emotional baggage that they've been carrying to this date. Okay. So that's the first thing that needs to happen.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's go into that step-by-step process in a little bit. But
Sure.
You touched on a point there, Helen, your journey. It obviously sounds like you followed one pretty unique to a lot of us, and that's, following the money. And I think money's freaking awesome because it allows me to have good experiences. But I was probably a bit disillusioned by why I wanted money starting out. So I was always chasing these, jobs because they had more money to give me, I guess, rather than following a job that, was really in line with my passions. So it sounds like you had that similar journey, gone to university, got into the corporate world, and then at some point, and you tell us, but at some point you probably had a bit of an awakening and changed your path as well. So give us a bit of a background, Helen.
Sure. So, for myself, it's interesting that, when I was younger and I was, in early high school, I always read child psychology books as, for pleasure. That was what I loved reading about. And I wanted to do psychology at uni, but then, people are in your ear about, there's not enough work. You need to be a psychiatrist to make money. And I definitely wasn't going to be a psychiatrist because I couldn't stand the thought of doing medicine. I couldn't attend biology class. I couldn't stand, the sight of blood or anything like that. So, people telling that's not a career. You need to do something different. And I take all that in. And what actually happened was that my year 12 score allowed me to do a Bachelor of Commerce at Melbourne Uni. And in my sort of immature way of thinking back then, there was higher marks that were needed for a Bachelor of Commerce rather than a psychology degree. So I thought, look, I've got the higher marks. Why would I do psychology? And That was my reasoning. I've got the higher marks. So I ended up majoring in economics and commercial law and entering the workforce. And like you said, it was just that, okay, start with this graduate position and then move up and always looking for that next job and the next job and the next job that would give me everything that I want. And I was in corporate for a good 22 years. So, so it was quite a while, and it really dawned on me when I was working as a senior project manager, a senior consultant for a company, and I was starting to feel like, reflecting in terms of, the last 22 years and moving forward, and I thought, I've got another good 2 decades ahead of me in terms of work. I can't leave the workforce because I had a massive mortgage. And so I'm thinking, I've got to do another 20 years of this. And then I thought, I can't do another 20 years of this, of, working hard so that some big corporation has, a better bottom line. So,
yeah, wow.
So what happened with me was that, every Friday, I was working for a big company at the time, and the consultants would catch up for coffee, and somebody said, somebody from the consulting firm, she had left the consulting firm and she'd written a book, and the book was called 30-something and Over It. And I just thought, oh my God, I need to read this book because that's exactly how I felt. I felt, I'm over it.
Yeah.
There was a time when I was passionate about, meetings and the outcomes of meetings, and then I came to a point where I really didn't care anymore. I still worked hard. I was always a hard worker right to the end, but I wasn't committed to the outcome. Certainly wasn't losing any sleep. And it just became so unimportant to me. It seemed so insignificant in terms of the whole, what I was doing and the projects that I was doing. And they were, big projects, multi-million-dollar projects, but it was insignificant in the sense that what was I really achieving?
Yeah, and that's a really important word, that's significance in your life, What are you doing that is leading a life with significance? Sorry.
Yeah, exactly right. And so I thought, I've got to read this book. And her story really touched me. Her name is Casey Edwards, and she wrote 30-something and Over It. And her story was very similar to mine because she'd come from the same, consulting company.
Yeah.
So, the parallels were incredible. And she talked about nurturing her baby. That is, finding your baby and then nurturing it. So whatever your baby might be, and for her baby was writing. She always had this incredible passion to be a writer.
Mm.
And then I had to ask myself the question as to what's my baby?
Yeah.
I really didn't know. Here I was, over 40 years of age. Even though the book was 30-something and Over It, I was 40-something and Over It.
Okay.
I was 10 years later. But I thought, what's my baby? I don't even know what my baby is anymore. I'd completely lost all connection to my previous passion of psychology. I didn't know. And so then what I thought I would do is start to take notice of my day and start to take notice of the things in my day that gave me joy.
Yeah.
The moments that gave me joy. And then what I noticed was that the moments that gave me joy were those moments where I would talk to people in the tea room. And because I went through some personal adversity myself and changed so many different aspects of my life by this stage, it was about helping people overcome their own limitations and talking them through that. And then they would come to my desk the next day and say, Helen, you wouldn't believe what I've just done. I just did this. And that would really give me joy.
Yeah, cool.
And so I thought, oh my God, I think this is my baby. I think it's about, helping people overcome adversity, break through their fears, just like I have done with my own life. Because that's exactly what I've done with my own life. Because what I didn't mention, that years earlier, the hardest thing that ever happened for me was leaving my first husband.
Okay.
And I had a small child at the time as well.
What
And
age
so,
were you then, can I ask?
pardon?
What age were you then?
I was 31.
Okay, yep.
And for me, that was huge because I was always very much a black and white person. And, marriage was something that for me was for life. He was my first partner ever. And, the thing about it, which was very difficult, was that I came from my background. My parents are European, and no one in my family, and I come from a large family, had ever divorced. It was frowned upon. It was like not okay to do things like that. And, I was married to somebody who was actually a really nice guy, and that made it the hardest.
Yeah.
So that's what made it really difficult. It was he wasn't, there was nothing wrong with him. He was a really nice guy. He was a great provider. He was a great husband and a terrific father. And so it took me a good 4.5 years to overcome, that battle and to overcome my fears and all the adversity and everybody in the family putting a lot of pressure on me not to do it. They thought that I had just lost it and that I'd gone nuts, and I was making the most ridiculous, stupid decision of my life that would impact my child. And of course, that's what was the number one thing that I was thinking about, was my child.
Yeah, that's got to be a top of mind.
And ultimately, breaking up a family is no small thing. It's huge, because you can never get that back. Once you've broken up that family, that's it. So
was it just not working between you both, or?
What had happened was that he had stayed the same and I had changed.
Oh.
Yeah. So I had grown in terms of the way that my view of the world, and he was the same guy that I'd married.
Yeah.
So we just shifted in terms of where I wanted to be and where he was.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to describe unless you're in the situation. But I found myself unhappy and depressed. And that's why depression is such a huge, topic for me. And that's why I love helping people with depression, because I was definitely there.
You were there, yeah. So in that relationship, you started feeling unhappy and depressed because, I guess, whilst your partner was obviously a lovely man, you guys just weren't compatible as much, or you didn't sort of see the same future. That's
right. I had changed in the way that I saw the world. I really did. And he hadn't. Okay. And it's really hard to describe unless you're in the situation. But even if you're in the situation, it's quite difficult to describe. And, and so certainly there were so many times where I was completely torn as to what to do. And it took, a good, like I said, 4.5 years for me to overcome that and do what I needed to do for myself.
Yeah. Okay, that's huge.
Yeah, it was huge. It was huge, and I had a lot of people tell me that I was selfish and I wasn't thinking about my son and all the rest of it. But the thing is with life, Leigh, you know what? You have to be. You have to be selfish because, everything will end up being okay if you're okay.
Yeah.
So, I'm not doing any favours to my son if I had stayed depressed. That's not a great role model.
Absolutely, and that's the thing. Like, some people will go through it, and whilst it wasn't a damaging relationship, it certainly wasn't one that was making you happy. So you could play out, and life is too damn short. So why would you spend your life 30 years in this state of unhappiness and depression? It just doesn't make sense.
Exactly. I mean, there is many reasons why you would, and that's why people do stay. But
sure.
You have to do what's right for you.
Yeah. Okay. So you obviously overcame that depression. That's obviously been a bit of a key driver into following your passion. So when you were back at the water stand, I guess, and helping people out, you had that realisation, that aha moment where you thought, yep, this is what I'd like to do. How was the transition between your gig in the corporate world to going out and actually doing that?
Yeah, and it was a transition. So when I look back, I just can't believe how I did it actually, because I had a full-time job
Yep.
as a senior project manager. I was studying, so I was retraining in terms of hypnotherapy,
Yeah.
and I was seeing clients. Started to see clients of an evening and week and Saturdays. So I look back and think, how did I do that? But when you suddenly have this idea and a purpose, you just have this driving force inside you, and you don't know where it comes from, where you can do anything.
Yeah.
And the way that I did it was, for me, it was very important not to risk anything, because, like I said, it wasn't like I could depend on, by this stage I was remarried. I couldn't depend on my husband to pay for the mortgage. We had an equal, we paid equally for it. We had the same income. So whatever income I was getting in corporate, he was as well. So we contributed equally to the mortgage. And my half was very important for us to have this house that we were living in. So I couldn't just, decide to stop corporate one day and start my business the next day.
Yeah.
That was not possible. So my decision was that I would only move full-time into my business as soon as I was able to earn the same amount of money. So the way that I did it was that I worked evenings, like I said, so I was still working full-time.
Yeah.
I would see clients evenings, and then I would see clients all day Saturday.
Yeah.
And this is the rule that I sort of said to myself, which worked, which was, the moment that I start losing clients because I can't see them, something needs to change.
Okay.
So if somebody needs to see me but I can't because my evenings and my Saturdays are booked out into the future, then something has to give, and I have to make some changes, and I need to drop off another day off work.
Yeah. Okay. I like it.
So that's what I did. As soon as I started to lose clients because they couldn't wait 2-3 months into the future until I had a spare Saturday or an evening, I approached the consulting company I was working for and said, I need to drop off a day and work part-time. Now, not many project managers actually do that, and hardly any from this firm did that. So it wasn't something that they were pleased about, but they were very good because I was respected, and I was one of those consultants that was always working, never sat on the bench, as they said, between gigs or anything like that. I always had long-term assignments. So they said, okay, that's, we'll do it. Reluctantly they said that, but they did. And so then I was working Saturdays in my business, Mondays in my business, and evenings.
Okay.
And then, again, I had the same rule. So I said to myself, once I start losing clients because they can't see me during those times, I will have to change something. And so the time came again, and then I decided that I needed to drop another day off work, my full-time work, as a project manager.
Yeah.
And this time they had a different reaction. So when I went in and said, look, and said, hey guys, I need to drop another day. I now need to be a project manager that only works for 3 days a week. They said, Helen, you can't do it. In this industry, you can't do it. You can't, you're not going to find, no clients will want to have you as their project manager for 3 days a week, not the kind of projects you're managing. Nobody will be in for that.
Yep.
And so I said, you know what? I'm not so sure about that, because I know that with many projects, especially at startup stage, I can get the work done in 3 days. I can get the work done in 3 days. And so what they said to me was, okay, if you're so convinced you can get the work done in 3 days, you go find the clients, because they would find the clients for me normally, as they would find everybody else's. But they said, because they didn't believe that they could actually find me a client that would want a project manager for 3 days. And so I did. I went and found, it was one of the power companies, had an interview with them, convinced them that I could run a project in 3 days, convinced them of the benefit from their perspective, because they pay me less, obviously.
Yeah.
And so I got that gig. And so so then I was working Mondays, Tuesdays, Saturdays, evenings, and then working Wednesday, Thursday, Friday in my other role.
Yeah.
So you can see the transition was
Yeah,
very methodical. As an economist, I wanted to make sure that, I wasn't losing out, financially, that I wasn't just, going into the deep end. And then what happened, Leigh, was I actually spoke on the radio about what I was passionate about. And I was inundated, absolutely inundated with calls from listeners. And so at that point, my husband said to me, this is it. You're not going to get a gig for 2 days, and that is fact. This is the time to resign, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to see all these people that have, contacted you, and they're not going to be waiting, 6 months to see you. So that was terrifying. It was the most terrifying, period of time in my life where, I had to resign. It was, this is it. It was like the universe was telling me, you've got to do it now. No more like, dipping your toe in the water and see how it's going. You've just got to commit and resign from your position. And the difficulty about resigning from my position, Leigh, was that it was actually a really good job.
Yeah.
I was respected. Because I was a project manager, I pretty much managed my day, and I was able to give myself 80 minutes lunch break every lunchtime to go for a run or to go to the gym, because that was very important to me.
Yep.
So, sure, there were times when I had to work really late, but most of the time I got home at a reasonable time. So it was a terrific company to work for, and it was like good money, excellent money, in fact. And I had to give that away. So it was really hard.
That's what you wanted.
Making that decision to say, I am now totally and completely responsible for paying my bills, for getting my income. No more sick leave, no more long service leave or annual leave or anything like that. It's like, it's all me. So that was huge. So when I went to resign, I actually still had a backup plan. I asked for 1 year unpaid leave. So even though I knew that I was going to make it work and that I was not going to go back in a year's time, it was almost just like this security blanket that I decided to do. And the great thing about that was that I was still invited to the firm's Christmas party, and they had the best Christmas parties. Even though I wasn't working there anymore. And then the year rolled over and I formally resigned. But so that's how I transitioned. It wasn't, it was well thought out and methodical.
So how many years was that in process?
How many years was that in the process? I think from beginning until full-time working for myself was 18 months. Okay,
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I mean, I had a vision, and I was committed, and I was driven, and I was always looking at, expanding the business. And so, with me, I make decisions very quickly, and I think that is something that successful people do is you make decisions quickly.
Yeah.
Because the procrastinators of the world are the ones that don't get things done.
Yeah.
And so, the negative about that is that sometimes we make decisions very quickly that are not the correct decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
But at least you're making a decision and you're taking some sort of action.
Well, you can always change too, I think, as well. But what a really cool story. And for the gang that's listening out there, some really cool takeaways. I suppose the one for me is that, you hustled on the side. So it was your passion. It was a passion project, and you just made it happen when you could. So, and I think for a lot of this, that's what we've got to do to avoid the risk. I'm probably a little bit too impatient for that. I'd probably just go at it, gung-ho, and leave everything behind. But, you got to do what works for you. And obviously you made it work. You worked incredibly hard at it, and, you kept coming up. I like the idea of having those backup plans, even though you don't want to use them as an excuse to fall onto it and just give up inside of challenge or adversity in your new passion. But it's good to have them there.
It's just a feeling that it's like, everything will be fine no matter what, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I think the other takeaway for me during that experience was, not listening to the good opinion of other people, so that, even when my company said to me, you will not get a senior project manager role that does 3 days a week, saying, why not?
Yeah.
Who said I can't? Just because someone else hasn't done it doesn't mean I can't do it.
Absolutely.
So that's important, I think, that sort of way of thinking, that not necessarily taking into consideration, other people's point of view, because they're limiting.
Yeah.
They limit you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Rather than saying I can't or it can't happen, ask yourself how can it happen and work backwards from, where you want to be.
Exactly.
Really cool way to look at it. So really cool story. I want to get back into finding out a bit more about sort of what you do and how, the steps that we can follow in our journey. We're going to face these fears, these anxieties, and certainly helping us overcome depression would be a good thing. Firstly, my question is, why are people depressed? Why are so many people depressed?
Yeah, and the thing is with depression, it is a Western world epidemic.
Yeah, right. Yep.
It really is. And so what I believe, this is this question is a very big question, and it really hasn't been answered.
Yeah.
But this is just from what I believe, my own personal experience, and the thousands of clients that I've seen, is that we no longer live in a society that promotes community. And so, in the less developed nations, there is more of a community spirit, where people are helping each other, are there for each other.
Yeah.
Meals are cooked, amongst communities, tasks are shared. People are feeling alone. People are feeling isolated. People feel as if they can't ask for help. I have so many clients who think they cannot ask for help. I mean, I have asked for help in every area of my life, whether it's business, relationships, I still ask for help.
Yeah.
It is so important to ask for help, but people think that they need to do things on their own. And really, we're not meant to do things on our own. We don't live in caves where we have to solve all our own problems on our own. So I believe that in terms of our society, the expectations that we place on ourselves, the way that we compare ourselves to others. And then, trying to do it all on our own, trying to balance, work with home, always trying to up the ante in terms of, the next thing that we need to purchase, or this all leads to a feeling of, well, I can't do it. And that isolation leads to a feeling of depression, where you feel like it's just not going to get any better and there's no way out, or I'm fearful, I'm stuck. So depressed people, they feel stuck. Yeah. They feel fearful. They feel like there is no way out. It's not going to change. But, anxiety is even greater. So mostly everybody that has depression also has anxiety, but not everybody who is anxious has depression, if that makes sense.
Yeah, okay.
So in terms of the statistic that I gave you earlier about the 65%, not everybody who is... So that applies to anxiety. Not everybody who is anxious is also depressed.
Yeah.
But there's a huge proportion of us who are anxious. And anxious about meeting new people, anxious about performing at work, anxious about, all sorts of things in our lives.
It's all future related, isn't it? Anxious about in the future rather than being focused in the present.
It's exactly what it is, Leigh. So anxiety is imagining something going wrong.
Yeah.
And whatever we put in our mind, whatever we take on as our thoughts, that becomes our reality.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely. And I mean, I suffer depression. It's certainly, I believe it's in our family. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems to be in our family. And I don't suffer it majorly or anything, but certainly I get times where I'm just down on myself, and you probably touched on a few good points there, and one is, being alone. You feel like sometimes you're doing it all by yourself. and then that feeling that you're just stuck and it's not going anywhere, even though, even now, like I just put so many hours into what I love to do, and sometimes you just go, oh, it's just not taking me anywhere, and that's my impatience as well, and that maybe causes a little bit of my depression too, I don't know, but definitely some cool takeouts for the audience there. So how does hypnotherapy, in the line of what you do, you mentioned earlier it's a sort of a step-by-step process. Perhaps we can go into that and just go through a few steps and methods that we can use to help us get over ourselves, I guess.
Sure. Yeah, hypnotherapy is just so powerful. And, with hypnotherapy, it's really about making shifts happen at the subconscious level, because all our habits, all our values, all our emotions are actually at the subconscious level, not at the conscious level.
Because when I think of hypnotherapy, I just remember seeing these TV shows where there's a guy on stage and they hypnotise a bunch of people and they run around like crazy chickens.
Yeah, that's stage hypnosis, and you know what? It's true. Stage hypnosis is absolutely real. It's all real stuff.
Yeah.
But it's meant the purpose of stage hypnosis is entertainment.
Yeah.
And it's about making people laugh. so that's the intention there. But with the work that I do, it's all about helping people make those shifts at the subconscious level. At the conscious level, there's too many blocks in the way. Whereas at the subconscious level, we can change things very, very, very easily and remove those blocks. So it's not about me telling people something that they already know. Okay. That's not what this is about. It's about removing the blocks that are keeping them there.
Yeah.
That are keeping them, that make them sabotage, their intention. And it's about them listening to their inner self, because my belief is that our subconscious mind is all-knowing and all-wise. And that's what I love about my work. It's not about telling them something they already know. It's about unlocking what's already there.
Yeah.
What's already deep inside everybody. They have the answers themselves.
Yeah. Yes, I certainly do. And I still do things that I bang my head against a brick wall and go, why did you do that for, idiot?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. And so that's what the process is about. And for me, in order to do things properly, it's not just about focusing on what's happening in their present moment, but we do actually have to go back to the past.
Wow.
Because even though people think that they have resolved issues from the past, in fact, they're just getting distracted. They're not really resolved. So what I deem as resolved is that you can talk about anything that's happened in your past and you don't become emotional. It's just a story.
See, that's scary, but like for me, I just think it's, what are you going to pull out? Like that's going to put a lot of people off, isn't it?
Well, it is scary. It is a scary thing to do, but it's worth it.
Absolutely,
Because imagine the outcome. The outcome is you can talk about anything that's happened to you, anything, and it's just a story. It actually has no emotional impact anymore. That's what we need to do. And so what we do at the subconscious level is we go through right from the beginning of time, all the negative events, and they see these negative events with their adult mind, and they take learnings from them, positive learnings, because whatever has happened to us, whatever negative event has happened to us, the way that we normally process that information is when we remember that event, we relive that event.
Yeah.
So when we relive the event, the negative emotion becomes stronger.
Yeah.
It doesn't get better over time. Whereas if we dissociate from that event, take a positive learning from it, you've reframed it, you've learned something from it, and then you can let it go.
Okay.
So every single negative event, it's hard to believe, even people who have suffered emotional, physical, sexual abuse even.
Yeah.
There is something, and I know that many people out there listening right now will think that this is rubbish.
Oh, it sounds a bit woo-woo and crazy, but I'm open to it.
Well, consciously, your conscious mind is saying, no, there is no benefit out of that. How can there be a positive?
Yeah.
But your subconscious mind is the mind that I speak to, not your conscious mind.
Yeah.
And your subconscious mind will say, hey, yeah, there is actually something positive. It could be something like, well, I can help people who have suffered, like me, because I know what it feels like. Or I'm going to be a different mother and I know what to do differently because of what I have experienced. I don't know. Like, I don't give them the learnings. They have their own learnings.
Yeah.
So I don't put words into their mouths. They come up with it on their own.
Okay, so I'd be under, what is it, like not a trance? What do you call it?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it a trance?
Yeah.
So I'd be under a trance and you ask questions, I assume, and then I sort of answer under this trance?
Correct, but I don't ask questions about the facts because I don't need to know what's happening. Okay. So if you're looking down at a negative story, I don't actually need to know what that story is. It doesn't help me, it doesn't help you. And so I don't ask you about the story because if I ask you about the facts, then you go back into it and you become associated, and that's not how we take our positive learnings. You actually have to be dissociated and you come up with the learnings yourself.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And we do that with every emotion. We do that with anger, sadness, depression, hurt, guilt, fear, anxiety. So, we do that with every single emotion.
Okay. Yeah, wow. Okay, I'm very intrigued and, something that I'd love to give a go. So what sort of things, like, why would I go and see you? Obviously, maybe I've got depression or some anxieties, but why else would I go and see you? To
Addictions.
Addictions?
Addictions,
yeah.
yeah. So in fact, most people actually come to me for weight loss, not for depression.
Okay.
But there's two categories of people that come to me for weight loss, Leigh. The vast majority, about 85% of them, the reason that they're overeating is that there's a crutch there.
Yeah.
And so that's why diets don't work, because they haven't removed the crutch.
Yeah, right. Yep.
So diets don't work for this category of people, which is the vast majority, because the reason's still there as to why they need to overeat.
Well, that's the same with addictions, but isn't it? Drinking, smoking, whatever.
Absolutely. Except what I have found with smoking is that it's the reverse in terms of the statistics. So 85% of the people that come to me to stop smoking, it is actually just a habit, believe it or not. So there is a percentage, a small percentage, where there's other stuff going on in their life, and we need to address that first. But the majority, they just made a poor decision when they were young and stupid, and they still behave like that young, immature, 15-year-old when they're now 45. So, and that's easy. That's an easy, to get someone to stop smoking. It's 2 sessions. It's very, very simple. Yeah, it's very simple. It's a very simple thing to do. It's one of the easiest things to do. Weight loss, you can't do it in 2 sessions because it's far more complicated because we still have to eat. So that's different. So with the weight loss clients, most of them, they are experiencing depression and anxiety at the same time, but they don't come for that because they believe, they're under the false belief that if they look slim, they will no longer be depressed.
Yeah.
That's actually not true.
No.
We need to deal with that first in terms of the healing, and then they're ready. They're ready to, listen to powerful hypnotic suggestions about breaking those habits. They have to be ready for it.
Yeah, and how do you... only the person can be ready, hey? And how do you make that happen?
Yeah, well, the way
you have to want to, I guess. I don't know.
That's right. And the way that we make it happen is by getting rid of the emotional baggage first.
Yeah.
So there's 3 things that we need to do to eliminate... there's 3 things we need to do to have change in our life.
Yeah.
Now, whether that change is no longer being depressed, whether that change is no longer being anxious or breaking unhelpful habits or addictions or whatever, first thing we need to do is eliminate the emotional baggage that's weighing us down. That's the first thing.
Yep.
The second thing is that we do need to take action. It's not just a matter of turning up to my, practice every week. There's something that they have to do every single day. There's some action that they must take every day, and that is something that I discuss with them at every session. And the third thing that needs to happen is once all that's done, then we focus on what they want in life, not what they don't want, because up to this point, they've been focusing on what they don't want. And so we redirect their attention to what it is that they actually do want.
Okay. That's cool. So that daily action piece, is that something that obviously would be unique to every individual that you sort of...
Yes.
It's like homework almost, is it? Or
yeah, it is. It's like, yeah, that's right. It's tasks. So we have an agreement. So I would say to them, this is what I think needs to happen this week. How do you feel about that? Because I'm not going to force it on them. You know, it has to be agreeable.
Yeah.
And they say, yes, I can do that. Or they say, no, I can't, and so I come up with something else. But I always start off small, and then those tasks just get more and more and more, because as they become more and more empowered, they can do more.
Yeah.
Whereas at the beginning, there's only so much they can do.
Yeah.
That they feel they can do. Of course, they can do more, but it's, you know, it's about what they feel they can do.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to make it, I guess, measurable and achievable.
Yeah.
With the action, so if you really like hamburgers and you're trying to lose weight, it's going to be hard to avoid eating a hamburger if you really like them. I don't know if that's a simple sort of way to look at things, but is it still possible, even though you love it, and the reason why you do it because you just like doing it?
Yeah.
Is there a way to sort of still remove that emotional baggage and then control yourself?
Of course.
Yeah.
Hypnotherapists do what's called a food aversion.
Yeah.
So we make you dislike them.
Oh, that's...
If that's what you want, though. So, you know, for me, I wouldn't suggest that unless that's what the client wanted. So for me, it would be all about helping them make healthier choices every day. But it has to be aligned with what they want. If somebody doesn't want to eat hamburgers anymore, I help them not eat hamburgers. Like for myself, I was addicted to chocolate. And I had
like all women.
yeah, and I had hypnotherapy for chocolate, and now I don't have any, because for me there was no, you know, let's be moderate about it, you know.
There's one way or the highway. I'm a bit like that with my extremes.
Yeah. So I completely cut it out of my life because it was a chain around my neck. It was something that, you know, didn't help me with my goals, and I've completely eliminated it from my life through hypnotherapy. So, cool. we do food aversions all the time.
So, can I ask, what is the success rate? So if someone's going in there to break out an addiction or weight loss issue or just overcome depression, I know there's different amounts of time and sessions and things they need to do, but what is the success rate for... You know?
Okay. So in terms of the studies, they're actually really, really, really high. So for hypnotherapy, it's about 93%. It's really high. With the people that don't succeed, they fall into two categories. Either they just wanted a magic bullet, but they're not prepared to do anything themselves.
Yeah.
So they're not prepared to do any action in between. Or they didn't see it through. So they haven't actually seen it through. Like I said, you know, with weight loss and depression, it's a process. It's not a 1, 2, 3 session and that's it, it's all done.
Yeah.
It's a process, and you have to, and like you alluded to earlier, Leigh, it's, you know, it's difficult to begin with. You know, the first couple of sessions are quite difficult. And so they have to get through that difficulty so that they can achieve their goals. So it's about sticking with the program, doing what they need to do so they can achieve their goals.
Yeah, cool. Okay, and I think importantly, as you said earlier on, you know, it's okay to ask for help. And you know, a lot of us will, because we almost feel like, I think this is an issue with why people would avoid going to a psychiatrist or a hypnotherapist or even to a mate, is because they feel like they might get judged.
Yeah, and the thing is that, you know, the people that feel like they're going to be judged are usually the people that judge others. So because that's the way they're programmed, you know, they're programmed to judge others, then they fear being judged.
Oh, that's
but it is, and that's what I have found. It's that's the way they're programmed to think. So it's about, you know, changing their programming.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully, you know, people who are therapists have done their own clearing work, because with me, everything that, you know, has ever happened to me has been cleared. And what I mean by cleared is that I have done therapy, extensive therapy for everything.
Yeah.
And so, and therefore, I can see anybody in my practice, and I don't have that. I can really say that I don't have that judgment. And I've not just seen people, you know, who are victims. I've seen perpetrators, you know, people who have done terrible things.
Yeah, right.
But if I'm going to sit there in judgment, there is no way I can help that person.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. You'd respect that from the professional, not to be judged when you enter their clinic or wherever it might be. But just from the people around you, you might think that you're going to be looked upon differently or whatever because you went out and asked for help.
Exactly. And it's interesting that, there's a question that I ask in my very first session, which is there anything you haven't told anybody else? And you'd be surprised as to, you'd have 60, 70-year-old people who have held on to something their entire life and haven't told a single soul. And really, a lot of these things are not that, not something that you can't tell, but they felt like they couldn't tell it. So,
Would that be higher for men than women too, or?
Yes.
Yeah?
I would say that, yeah.
Yeah, okay. No, very interesting stuff. Look, I'm respectful and conscious of the time here. How long we've been chatting away for ages, and I'd love to chat with you more on this topic. I'm fascinated by it, and I think there's a lot of great things that we can share with the audience that's listening as well. So perhaps we'll have to make a session number 2 sometime and get you back on the show. But I want to just delve into a few of these other questions in regards to, well, first of all, what are your routines and habits that you practice daily to help you, obviously with the depression that you may have faced back in the past, perhaps you still do now, I'm not sure, but also just to help you with, living a happy and successful life. What are your daily habits and routines?
Good question. I'd like to talk about three things that I do every day.
Yep.
The first, not negotiable for me, is exercise.
Okay.
So I have got a predisposition to depression. And, there's 2 things that change the structure and function of your brain, and one of those is intensive exercise. So to me, it has to happen. So every morning at 5:07, exactly,
Nice.
5:07, 2 alarms go off so that I don't miss one, and I'm out of there.
Yep.
So it happens 7 days a week, every single day, and it's intense. It's not just a walk. To me, that's important. Your heartbeat has to really, ramp up. You've got to feel those endorphins zapping around your brain, making you feel good. And intensive exercise, it has been proven, study after study, better, than any antidepressant. So that sets me up for the day, because if I've just done something really challenging physically, I'm ready for the rest of the day.
Yeah, okay.
So, whereas if I don't do my exercise, I feel lethargic, I feel out of sorts, and so that's very important.
You commit to it every single day, and I would love to say that I do, but I still struggle on my weekends to commit to it.
Yeah,
But,
I do commit to it. I do commit to it every single day, and I know that a lot of medical practitioners out there say to their patients, 3 times a week's fine, but I actually don't believe it is, because the reason I don't believe it is it's not a habit. If you do something for three times a week, it's very easy for those people who don't do exercise regularly to start thinking, I can miss another day, it's cold, it's raining, I'm not going to get out there. Whereas if you do something every day, you've established a really strong habit.
Absolutely. And I think when you stop, like, for me, for example, if I do 3 or 4 or 5 days maybe, let's just say 4, and then I stop for 3 days, it's much harder to get back in that flow as well.
Exactly. And that's why I would prefer that, people do, even if it's 30 minutes a day, you don't have to go for the hour. People think I've got to do an hour. You don't. You're better off doing 30 minutes of intensive exercise. I've even done 20 minutes because I was short on time.
Yeah.
20 minutes of intensive exercise is better than nothing.
Yeah.
You don't have to do the 60 minutes. You don't need to work out for 60 minutes every day.
Yeah. Oh, you've got me inspired. I used to do this body weight exercise routine, and it was about 10 minutes, maybe, a little bit longer, depending. And I used to go through it twice, but when I didn't have the time, or I don't know, just wanted to get out there and do something and get on with what I wanted to do, I'd just do it 10 minutes, and I still felt pretty bloody good. So.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Doing something every day, and it doesn't have to be, a long exercise session.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing that I do every day. The second thing that I do is, I think it's very important for me. I'm highly kinesthetic, and it's important for me to touch. And so so currently in our household, I've got an adult son who's 22 and my husband. And so it's important for me to give them a big hug each in the morning. It's really important to give them a big, long hug. That's the second thing. The third thing that I do, and I've only picked up this habit the last year because myself and my husband work in our business together. And so that's been really challenging for our marriage.
Yeah.
And so we've learned a technique that we learnt from an event that we attended, a Deepak Chopra event.
Oh, wow. Cool.
And it was a 4-day event in Queensland, and he talked about, the whole 4 days he talked about intention. And we decided after that event that every morning, my husband and I, we would set the intention for the day. And I tell you what, Leigh, that's been better for us than any marriage counselling that we did or anything else. It's just setting the intention for the day. So it could be anything, and either of us could set it. So our intention for the day might be, today we only speak to each other with love. And, if one of us doesn't speak with love, the other can say, hey, that doesn't sound like love to me.
Okay.
So, and it's amazing that when you set the intention, you actually, that's at the back of your mind all day. Whereas if you don't set the intention, all sorts of things could happen. You
Cool.
can start
I like
getting
that one. Give us a few other examples if you don't mind.
Well, it could be that, if we feel like a certain emotion coming up, that we walk away, we don't engage. It could be anything. So, but, we had previously done, some marriage counselling just to help us, work together and live together, because we're together every single day from morning until night.
Yep.
And this simple exercise was the one that made the difference.
That's pretty cool. Yeah. Okay.
This simple exercise, yeah.
I love it. Set the intention daily.
Yeah.
And I think if you're single, you can probably do it for yourself as well. Couldn't
Of
you?
course you can.
Yeah,
You can set it for yourself and say today, like if you know that there's something difficult in your day, set the intention for what you're going to do, that how you're going to overcome that challenge that day.
Yep. And you're obviously an early riser too, 5:07 doing the exercise, so I assume about a 5 a.m. club person.
Well, I had to be. I had to become one.
Yeah.
So, I'm too exhausted by the end of the day, and there's no way that, I could think about doing something at the end of the day. So it has to be, it sets me up for the day mentally.
Yep.
So mentally I feel strong when I do exercise, and just to know that it's out of the way is such a good feeling,
It is. Absolutely. I'm a big fan. So, okay, cool. What if you could travel back in time and say hello to your 20-year-old self, what sort of advice would you give yourself, if anything?
Yeah, not necessarily change anything at 20 years of age, but I'd change something at 16, which is what I mentioned earlier about, the degree that I chose to do.
Yep.
So I finished year 12 quite early. I was a 16-year-old when I finished year 12.
Wow.
And that's what I would do different, is I would have done a different degree. I would have done psychology as opposed to commerce.
Yeah, okay.
So I definitely would have done that. So, followed my heart and listened to my heart more rather than listening to the opinions of other people. Listening to what my heart is saying to me rather than my head. And, at this point in my life, I'm really good at listening to my heart as to what is my heart telling me, because my heart is my subconscious mind, and my subconscious mind knows what to do. So just listening and living a life without fear. So living a fearless life.
Yeah, beautiful. I love it. And I think that's what it's all about. So very cool. And I actually went and studied commerce as well. There you go.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
There you go.
And haven't used it to this day. Well, no regrets, but yeah, haven't really used it. So it was a good few-year party for me.
Yep.
Okay, what does success mean to you?
So success means, to me, it's all about, living a life with passion, really, and purpose. And it's about I always think, what am I going to think when I come to the end of my days? and what do I want to have happened when I come to the end of my days.
Yeah.
So success means to me to have a loving relationship with my husband, who's my soulmate, and my son, who I adore.
Yeah.
And to me, that's number one, is having a loving relationship with them, with my parents, with my extended family, my nephews, my nieces, being around people who I love and adore, and living a life where you contribute outside yourself.
Yeah.
So you've helped other people. That, to me, that's success. When it's not just about me, but it's about all the people that I've helped around me.
Yeah, absolutely. No, very cool. I was going to touch on something there, but anyway, it slipped my mind. I'm going to jump to some quick round questions. It might come back to me. Just got a few quick round questions here for a bit of fun. What is your favourite food?
I'm a pescatarian. I don't know if your listeners know what a pescatarian is. A lot of people don't.
Yep.
Which is, I don't eat meat, but I love seafood. Love it. So grilled fish. I just love grilled fish. You know, something as simple as grilled fish. I can eat it every single night. And what I love about it is how you feel after you've eaten it. It's not just during the process of eating it, but, you know, everything feels really nice and settled and comfortable, no bloaty feeling or anything like that. So that's my favourite food.
It's pretty clean, yeah. No, very cool. Okay, and what is your favourite leisure activity?
Well, I do love food, and my favourite leisure activity is to be dining with the people I love, with my friends and family. I love being surrounded by food and family, friends and family. I'm in my really happy place when I'm doing that.
And that's, I think, probably very helpful, you know, that whole community thing again is to do more of that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. No, very cool. You mentioned a book earlier on, 30-something and Over It, by Casey Edwards, I believe it was. So have you got another favourite book that you'd like to mention?
Yes. Well, my all-time favourite book is not a non-fiction book, it's a fiction book.
Yeah.
So my all-time favourite book and my favourite movie is Gone with the Wind. I love everything about it. And you know what I love about that is that, you know, the main character, Scarlett O'Hara, she was chasing an illusion the whole time when everything that she ever wanted to make her happy was right in front of her. And, you know, I just think that's just such a brilliant message. So, brilliant book. Love it. Love the movie. Seen it so many times, read the book so many times, and it's my all-time favourite.
Gone with the Wind. So there you go. I'm going to have to go and watch it or read it.
Give yourself some time because it's the longest movie ever.
Yeah, well, we can make time. That's cool. So have you got a favourite quote?
My favourite quote, which was really significant to me at the time that I needed to make all the changes in my life, is become loyal to your innermost truth. Follow the way when all others abandon it. Walk the path of your own heart. That's my favourite quote.
Okay, who's that by? Do you know?
Yes, it's been attributed to a guru called Bali.
Okay.
So yeah, that's the source that they've said.
Yeah, very inspiring.
But usually when you see that quote, they don't usually have who the source is, but that's who the known source is anyway.
Okay. Yeah, I like it.
I don't know how accurate that is, but I just love it. It's about following your innermost truth.
Yeah, and I think that's what it's all about. Absolutely. Cool. And final question, I'm going to throw it over to you in a second so you can tell us all about you and where to go and how to reach you. And I know you've got a book too, so you might want to mention that. But my final question is, the show's all about living life with passion and purpose. What does that mean to you? And you've probably sort of answered in a few different ways so far. But
yeah, I probably have. So to me, it's about dedicating your life, doing what you love, again, without fear, living a fearless life. And purpose is all about living it in such a way that you contribute outside yourself. Because if you follow your passion and your purpose, you will contribute outside yourself. You will be helping others.
Yeah.
That's just going to happen. It will happen automatically.
Absolutely, and I hear that more and more as I delve into this sort of passion of my own. So very cool stuff. So Helen, how can the audience reach out to you, find you, etc.? Anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I've got a couple of websites. I've got www.hypnofit, that's HYPNOFIT, hypnofit.com.au.
Yep.
Or I've also got the helenmidas.com site. Yes, and in terms of my book, I've written a book called Mindset Dominance, and it's all about, the step-by-step process. We went through it very, very briefly before, so that you can let go of the things that don't serve you, and you can follow through with the things that will serve you, so that you can achieve your goals and your aspirations.
No, very cool. Very cool. Well, look, it's been absolutely a pleasure to chat with you. I'm well over time, but I think it's because we had such a good conversation, and certainly only skimmed the surface, I assume, so there's probably much more we could go into. So, Helen, if you can, let's do it again sometime down the track and see what else we can share with the audience.
Would love to. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No, it's been absolutely a pleasure. So, yeah, thanks for taking the time out and jumping on the show. But, yeah, thank you, Helen. And for the audience out there, go to thehiddenwhy.com, check out all the show notes, the links. I'll put as much detail as I can in there. There's always about 6 pages worth. So, go there, check it out, and until next time, peace, passion, and purpose.
Thanks for listening to the Hidden Why podcast, where it's all about living life with passion. For all the latest news and updates, please subscribe online to thehiddenwhy.com.
All right. So what did you think about that? What a really cool discussion. Something that I loved. I'll get her on the show again sometime so we can really delve further into that, because I think we just started really getting some great flow going. And, we had to cut it short at the hour mark, or a bit over an hour actually. But, hey, that's what the show time is. So that's what we stick to. So we'll get her back on for another episode down the track sometime. But jump online, guys, to thehiddenwhy.com if you could for me, and just leave us with your comments, questions, any thoughts that you had on the show, what you really liked about it, perhaps anything you didn't like too much about it, because, again, we're trying to adapt this show to provide the most value that we can. If hypnotherapy is something that you'd be interested in looking into, you can jump on thehiddenwhy.com and check out all the links to Helen. She'll be more than happy, I'm sure, to help you out, answer any questions that you might have around that sort of field. Other than that, guys, I hope you're really enjoying the show. Please leave us with any questions or thoughts on upcoming episodes. If you know of people that we should really connect with, let me know. It's great to have you here once again. Look forward to bringing you the next show. And until then, peace, passion, purpose. See you again soon.
Thanks for listening to the Hidden Why podcast, where it's all about living life with passion. For all the latest news and updates, please subscribe online, thehiddenwhy.com. This is The Hidden Why.